Hey everyone, and welcome! Today we are diving deep into the MERN stack. You've probably heard this term thrown around. It's one of the most powerful and honestly most in-demand tool sets for web developers out there. So if you're looking to become a full-stack developer, you are in exactly the right place. Consider this your step-by-step roadmap.
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start by introducing what the MERN stack even is. Then we'll lay down the absolute essentials, the web foundation. After that, we'll get into building cool user interfaces with React, power up the server side, and figure out how to manage all our data. And finally, we'll tie it all together to complete your full stack roadmap. All right, let's kick things off with section 1. So what exactly is the MERN stack? You hear the term everywhere, but what does it actually mean? And, more importantly, why should you care? Why is it such a big deal for developers today?
Okay, so at its heart, MERN is basically a bundle of technologies that lets you build a complete web application from top to bottom. But the real magic, the absolute game changer, is that little phrase at the end, using a single language. That language is JavaScript. This means you can write the code for what the user sees, the code for the server, and the code for the database, all in JavaScript. It's just incredibly efficient.
Now, MERN isn't just a random word, right? It's an acronym, and it stands for the 4 key technologies that make up the stack. You've got M for MongoDB, which is your database, E for Express.js, that's your backend framework, R is for React.js, which you'll use to build the beautiful front end, and N is for Node.js, the environment that actually runs your server. We're going to break all of these down.
And here it is. This is our master map for today. It lays out the entire 7-stage learning path, from the absolute fundamentals of the web all the way to a full-blown, full-stack application. Think of this as your complete guide. We're going to walk through it together, step by step.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. Section 2, laying the foundation. Before you can even dream of touching the MERN stack, you have to be rock solid on the 3 pillars of the web, and those are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Trust me, these are non-negotiable.
The best way to think about it is like this. HTML is the skeleton of your website. It provides the bare-bones structure, all the headings, the paragraphs, the buttons. It's the nouns. Then CSS comes in and acts as the style. It's the adjectives. It gives the skeleton its clothes, its personality, handling all the colors, the layouts, and the fonts. Structure first, then style.
So here's a crucial piece of advice. You can't just read about this stuff. You have to practice. You have to build things. A simple portfolio page or a basic login form is the perfect first project. It forces you to combine your HTML structure with your CSS styling skills and really see how they work together.
So, once you have your structure and your style down, it's time to add the brains of the operation, and that is JavaScript. This is the programming language that actually brings your website to life. It makes it interactive, it makes it dynamic. It's what handles things when a user clicks a button, or when a pop-up appears, or when you need to fetch data from a server. Now, before you move on to the shiny stuff, you absolutely need a solid grasp of these core JavaScript concepts. You've got to master things like variables and functions. You need to learn how to manipulate the DOM. That's just a fancy way of saying changing things on the page. And you need to understand modern features like arrow functions and, of course, the Fetch API, which is how you get data from other places on the web. These are the absolute fundamentals.
A fantastic way to really make these JavaScript skills stick is to build a small, dynamic application. Something like a to-do list or a simple weather app is perfect. Why? Because it's going to force you to use logic to handle user input and to fetch data from an external source, which is, perfect practice for everything that's coming next.
All right, with that strong foundation firmly in place, we can finally move on to the R in MERN, React.js. This is an incredibly powerful JavaScript library that helps you build complex, modern user interfaces way more efficiently than you could with just plain JavaScript.
React's real power comes from this idea of breaking your user interface into small, reusable pieces called components. Honestly, just think of them like Lego bricks. You'll learn how to pass data between these bricks using something called props, and how each brick can manage its own internal data using state. You'll also learn about hooks like useState and useEffect, which are just tools to manage how your components behave. This is really the key to building modern web apps.
So, to really test your React skills and prove you've got it down, you should try building a more significant project. An expense tracker or a blog application is perfect, because it's going to require you to manage complex state, handle routing between different pages, and build a whole bunch of interconnected components.
It makes for a fantastic portfolio piece.
Okay, so we've spent a lot of time on the front end, what the user sees and interacts with. Now let's go behind the curtain and talk about the back end. This is the engine room of your application, where the server runs and all the heavy lifting and logic happens. Here, we're going to look at the N and the E in MERN, Node.js and Express.js.
Now, this is a super common point of confusion, so let's make it really clear. Node.js is the foundation. It's the environment that lets you run your JavaScript code on a server instead of just in a browser. Then, Express.js is a framework that's built on top of Node. It gives you a ton of pre-built tools and shortcuts that make building servers way faster and more organized. So Node is the playground, and Express gives you the swings and slides. Okay, so we have our front-end user interface, we have our back-end server. The final piece of the puzzle is the M in MERN, MongoDB. This is our database. It's the place where all of our application's important data, things like user profiles, blog posts, or product info, is actually stored. And this slide really highlights why MongoDB is the M in this stack. It's a NoSQL database, which means it stores data in these flexible documents that look almost exactly like JSON, which, if you remember, is the native way JavaScript handles data. This synergy means there's no awkward translation needed. It makes passing data between your Express backend and your MongoDB database incredibly easy and intuitive. It's just a perfect fit.
So, we've looked at all the individual components. We've got the M, the E, the R, and the N. Now for our final recap, let's bring it all together and see how these pieces connect and work in harmony to create a complete, full-stack application.
Let's trace the journey of a single piece of data. It all starts with the user interacting with your React front end, right? That action sends a request to your Express API running on the server. The server then communicates with the MongoDB database to create, read, or update some data. The database does its job and responds back to Express, which then sends the necessary information all the way back to the React front end, which finally updates the screen for the user. It's this beautiful, continuous loop, and the whole thing is powered by JavaScript.
Before we wrap up, I want to share some absolutely crucial advice for your learning journey. First and foremost, do not rush. This is not a race. Take your time to really understand each concept. And build mini projects constantly. After every single topic, build something small. It is the only way to make it stick. Also, get comfortable with GitHub from day one and make sure your core JavaScript logic is strong before you even touch a framework.
And finally, a little piece of encouragement. Consistency is so much more important than intensity. Even if you can only find 1 hour a day to code, that consistent effort will compound over time and make an absolutely massive difference in your progress.
So there you have it. That's the complete roadmap to becoming a full-stack MERN developer. You've got the map, you know the steps. The only question left is, what